So I thought what we'd do first is finish off a little bit on understanding the dementia, but we're moving forward into skills. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but I do want to close the loop a little bit. So I've been using the word dementia. You've heard me use it a whole bunch. Dementia, dementia, dementia. Here's what I'm going to tell you. You put up 10 fingers. If you take 10 Americans and you line them up and you say, what is dementia? Get your finger out. I'm going to have you right. Here's what 9 out of 10 of them are going to tell you. Okay, so drop one finger. Only one of them is going to say something different. This is what 9 of them are going to say. Well, dementia. Write the word dementia. It's like, put an equal sign, Alzheimer's. It's like Alzheimer's. Okay, so write that. That's the next statement they make. Okay, now put an equal sign. When you push them a little harder, you say, but what's Alzheimer's? Oh, well, hang on. Put an equal sign. Memory problems. So write memory problems. Problems with their memory. They have problems with their memory. Okay, put a big X on it. Put another X on it. 3 strikes, what? You're out. Erasing. Okay, now the reason I had you write it and erase it, I want you to actually go through this task of thinking something and saying, uh-oh, we're wrong. Because historically, that's what we thought. Uh-oh, pretty much everything that's dementia is Alzheimer's. Wrong. It's all wrong. All that's wrong. And it's not about memory problems. Here's the first thing we need to all get on the same page on. What I want you to take your index finger, and I want you to draw a great big umbrella shape. Great big umbrella. Draw your umbrella. And what I want you to realize is dementia is an umbrella term. It's a huge umbrella term. It covers about 85 to 90 different conditions. 85 to 90 different form, causes, and types. When we say someone looks like they have dementia, it is no longer considered a diagnosis. This is not a diagnosis. It's just a syndrome, a collection of symptoms that fit under the umbrella. Now here's the bad news. There are some things that look like they could go under the umbrella. They actually don't belong under the umbrella. But they look the same as the stuff under the umbrella. So the umbrella is marked dementia. 4 things true about everything that's a true dementia, not a faker. Not, and the term is called pseudo-dementia. It's not a pseudo-dementia, it's a real deal. It is dementia. Pseudo-dementia includes things like depression, a delirium from a UTI. It includes things like hypothyroidism that's undetected. It includes things like taking too much Valium because I tend to stay really stressed, and so I take Valium to keep me calm. Unfortunately, when you take Valium over the course of a long period of time, it sort of affects your brain a little bit. If you stop taking the Valium, you could reduce that, but then you have this anxiety that you have to deal with, and if you don't have a strategy for that, we got a problem. There are other conditions as well. Pain, unremitting pain will make it look like you have a dementia. Medication interactions. And on average, people are on 10 to 12 after the age of 75. 10 to 12. You take 10 to 12 meds, all of a sudden that start mucking around with your brain. We take a medication that has Benadryl in it. Benadryl, you can take Benadryl very easily when you're younger. Let me tell you a couple things it's in. Tylenol PM. Has a lot of Benadryl in it. Anything that has anticholinergic effects has the potential to make your brain not look right and not work right. The problem is if I'm just automatic and I'm going, oh, yeah, she's 85. Oh, yeah, that'll be it. People think it's dementia, and it's not. The bad news is if you keep it untreated for a long period of time, increasing evidence points to it increases your risk of getting dementia. So that's why we want to pick up on this stuff quick and early. We shouldn't be waiting around so long. One of the big challenges with the current screening system that is used universally almost, called the mini mental state exam, otherwise known as the Folstein. Okay? Are you ready? I'm going to do it for you real quick. Some of you may not be familiar with it. What's the day? What's the date? What's the day of the week? What's the month? What's the season? What's the year? What's the name of this place? What floor are we on? What city? What county? What state? Time out. I just gave you 10 questions that require your hippocampus to work really well. Verbally. And be able to respond to new data very quickly. So if I hit you up at the area where you might have the weakest area at the very beginning, guess what just happened to your brain as far as its capacity? Because you went, I know that. Why do you need to know this? Because you got my limbic all stirred up. Then we go on with, I'm going to give you 3 words to remember. Ball, flag, 22. What were the 3 words I asked you to remember? Now try to hold on to this. I'm going to try to trick you. Have 100, take away 7, 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 take away 7. If you can't do that, can you spell the word world backwards? Now I'll say this. No ifs, ands, or buts. Write a sentence, any sentence. Read this sentence, do what it says, close your eyes. Now do this. Take this piece of paper, fold it in half, and put it on the floor. It's a 3-step command. Now, what is this and what is that? Identify 2 objects, naming. You didn't recognize that from before. Now, what were those 3 words I asked you to remember? Draw 2 intersecting pentagrams. Ta-da. 30 points. Here's the problem. I didn't know how dumb you were to start with. So I don't know if what I'm seeing is dumb or dementia. You better hope it's not dumb because it's going to get labeled as dementia. And here's the other problem. If I'm really smart, I've actually heard about this test, and I know they're going to ask me when I get there. So I bone up before I get there. I might even, if I'm really smart, write the answers on my hand. Because you know, if you get the wrong answers, they take rights away from you, abilities away from you. They rob you of yourself, and so I'm not going to have that happen. I'm going to fix it. I will make sure I get the right answers before I get there. I will actually quiz out. I know 2 of them. What was the 3rd word? Do you remember? And so by the time I take this test, you're not testing what you think you're testing. Because I have figured this out. I put it in long-term storage. It's really emotionally important to me, and so I'm rehearsing and rehearsing and rehearsing. So frequently, you will very much miss my early signs of dementia because I'll know well enough how to cover. Because I'm not stupid, I'm demented. And what ends up happening is we miss people in the early stages who are bright, and we mislabel people in the early stages. There's nothing wrong with them other than they're dumb, or they have depression, or something else is going on, and we start throwing labels on people, and all of a sudden we've got issues. So it's a very poor tool. What else did I tell you about working memory? What's normal? 5, and how many are we checking? 3. Why? Because it's okay to miss 2 and still be labeled? I mean, what's the deal? Why do we only ask 3? So the new screening tools that we recommend, if you're really curious about this, really aren't many mental. It's called a 7-minute screen or slums, and you start with something very simple, like the following. Go ahead and partner up with somebody. I'm going to let you play with it for a second, because I want you to get more skilled at sort of even noticing. Okay, one of you is going to talk and one's going to listen. You decide who's who. I don't care. And let me go ahead and say this to you so you hear me. Everybody look at me while I talk. No matter what your score today, it doesn't count. Okay, this is a heads up. You can't do this kind of screening in the setting we're at and get accurate data. This is rehearsing your skills. Okay, so whoever's going to talk, raise your hand. I want you to, I'm going to give you your job. What you're going to do, everybody decide, in a pair, one of you's talking. Yeah, I mean, I can't help you more than that. All right, those of you who are talking, your job is to name as many animals as you can from the time I say go until I tell you to stop. You're going to name one animal after the other. Just name one after the other. Name animals. Just every animal you can think of. Just keep naming them. Okay? What parts of, now I want you to think about this because this is putting data together. What parts of the brain are we checking out over here? Your left temporal lobe. First I'm checking, did you comprehend what I said? Can you hold on to that information, and can you articulate? Do you have enough vocabulary you can go to, unlock it, and give it to me? Can you control the impulse to get upset and everything and perform task? So I'm actually checking out a good little bit of your brain here when I do that. Okay? Listener, raise your hand. Your job is to put a tick mark for every different animal that they mention. Every time they name an animal, tick, 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 put a little tick mark down. Okay? Your job is not to judge the quality of their animals. You may not give feedback on the quality of the animals. So I don't want to see any, I don't think that counts. There's none of that. You don't get to do that. You are not the judge of them. You are simply the observer of their behavior. The second job that you have, I want you to listen for patterns and rhythms in how they got to those animals. How and why did they name the ones they named? And I want you to listen for patterns of approximately 5 to 8. 5 to 8. You may find some short ones, and if you find short ones, keep track of that too. Okay? Sort of notice these things. So all you're doing is listening. It's not like you have a big job. I'm going to keep track of the time. So you don't have to do that. I've taken that off your table. Okay, are you ready? Okay, so try to speak relatively softly. And we'll talk a little bit when you're done about the whole process. Okay, are you ready? Everybody understand the task? Go. Everybody stop. Stop, time. Count up how many they got. Count them up. Count them up. Okay, now, here's what I'm going to tell you. We first came up with this little thing. It's called animal fluency. It's part of verbal fluency. In other words, what we're doing is checking out your depth of vocabulary and your ability to get in and out, keep them in a category, and articulate them. So we're actually checking out a good bit of skill set here. Now, here's what we thought when we first came up with this about 45 years ago. It was a long time ago. We made it part of a 4-part series where we would give you, and that was 1 minute, just so you know. How many of you thought it was much longer? Yeah, almost invariably, the people who are naming look up at me at least once to see if I'm still paying attention or if is she even thinking about, is she doing something else? Why is she taking so long? Because 1 minute, when you're trying to find the words, it suddenly expands way far out and it feels like forever. The person listening, you're trying to help them along. Oh, I didn't tell you no cheating. Hopefully you didn't. Some of you might have. When they couldn't come up with the word and described it, you might have given it to them. Because you couldn't, it's the one with the bushy tail. You know the one I'm thinking of. Fill in the blank, and you didn't even notice she did it. Yeah. All right, so here's what we at first thought. It was called the set test. And what we did is we say, we want you to name at least 10 items in that category, and then we'd switch categories on you to see if you could change the category and then name 10 within it. And what we did is animals, colors, cities and towns, and fruits and vegetables. That's what we did at first. Well, who has 4 minutes to spend with people? This is ridiculous. I don't have time like that. I am a busy person. So they took the set test and tried to collapse it down to a single category because people don't have time to do this stuff. And so that's where the animal fluency came up. So it was 1 minute, and we wanted you to name as many animals as you could think of. And at first we thought if you could get at least, if you were younger than 65, you should be faster. You have to get at least 18 to be normal. Now I want you to notice how many of you turned to the person and said you're okay, or she said it didn't count. Now some of you who are older are going, what's the over 65 number? That's what I want to know. We thought if you were older than 65, you'd have to be able to get at least 12. We gave the benefit of reduced time. We knew it took you longer. Now here's what we do know. That's bullshit. It doesn't mean anything. There is no such thing as a national average for the number of animals people can come up with. It depends highly on your background, your abilities, your innate cognitive skill set. What we have decided is what we should be doing is getting a baseline on you. Because with normal aging, we shouldn't see a big difference from 1 year to the next. Because you should increase your vocabulary, but you slow your speed down a little bit. So over the course of a year, I should maybe see a drop of 1 word, even if with normal aging, and you may maintain it for quite a period of time. But I should not see rapid changes in your ability there. Guess what our biggest problem is across this nation? There's no baseline. No physician even asks you for anything in the baseline. You walk in, I don't know what your baseline is. How do I know if you've changed? And dementia, more than anything, do this, is a change in function. Dementia is when you're changing, your functional abilities are changing. But if I don't know what it was before, how am I going to know if you're changing? Well, I've got to wait until there's a big difference. Well, by then, a lot of damage has been done, and we've got bad habits in how we try to help. If we could pick up on the signals very early on, it would buy us time to plan. It would also allow us to be clearer about ability versus inattention and unwillingness, and the possibility maybe the congestive heart failure is getting worse. Maybe we need to look at all these meds she's on. Maybe we should be checking to see if she's hypothyroid. Maybe we should double check. But if I wait until it's so profound, well, Lord, what are we going to do then? Throw up our hands. So what we should be doing is getting a baseline and then measuring off the baseline. Now let me ask a question in here. How many people in here had somebody who got over 30? Over 30. How many did your person get? 37. 33. 33. 32. What'd you get? 30. 38. All right, 39. All right, now if I said if you're under the age of 65, you have to get at least 18. And she had 39 as a baseline, and I'm waiting until she gets to 18. How much of her am I willing to lose before I acknowledge something's wrong? This just doesn't make any sense. If I can collect a baseline in 1 minute, and then we can measure you against you over time, why are we not doing this? Because everybody, do this, and do this, and do this. We don't want to look at dementia, it's scary. How many of you, when I gave you the number, turned to the person and said, see, you did fine. You think it's just old people, that isn't. We're all worried about our brains. Unfortunately, we're more scared than we are smart. Do you think you're going to prevent it by not looking? So this is my message to you. We should be looking. We should be asking questions. We should get curious instead of trying to hide. There's no safety in not acknowledging what's going on here. But what our problem is, you can't turn to the person and say, see, I told you there was something wrong with you. Because who comes back a second time when you slap them in the face like that? What you want to do is notice. Now, when you noticed how they were picking up the data, how many of you noticed patterns of about 5 to 8? And then, so let me tell you how you started, just so you know. Some of you might not have noticed this. Here's what everybody did. Animals. Okay, hang on. Dog, cat, bird, sheep, goat, rooster, chicken, duck. You got 5 to 8. There was a 5 to 8. Then there was an absolute pause for a second where you had to switch from working memory to the long-term storage unit. You went to the long-term storage unit. You looked for the file folder of vocabulary marked animals, and you pulled the drawer open. You looked in there. There were file folders in there. Now, when you're older, after age 40 or so, more people are very likely to make the following statement when they get to 5 to 8 and they're switching from working memory to long-term. Hang on a second, I know more. Let me think. You are much more likely to say it out loud because you're informing the person, don't count me out, I've got to go to the long-term storage unit and look for things. When you're young, you simply go to the long-term storage unit, you're quick enough, you just pull the drawer open, there we go, farm animals. Yes, sheep, goat, pig, ducky, turkey, a goose, a rooster, back to the file cabinet. Animals you find in the zoo. Lion, tiger, bear, rhinoceros, hippopotamus, walrus. Back to the file cabinet. Types of dogs, kinds of cats. Back and forth you go, back and forth. Now every now and then you hit a category you think you know enough. Reptiles. Snake, salamander. Back to the file cabinet. Because you suddenly realize, I don't know as many of those as I thought I did. And then when you start worrying about it, you can't think of anything. And every now and then there might have been somebody who said you could picture the animal in your mind. You could picture it and you thought, what is that called? What is the name of that? And you had to be willing to let go of it and go on, knowing that the goal was to name as many animals as you could, not find a particular animal. And some of you struggle with that. And if you struggle with that, what will happen is you'll lose the task in the naming of the animals, and we want to pick up on that. It's really hard for you to sustain focus. So if I turn you loose on a task and I walk away and there's multiple other things you could do, it's going to be hard for you to stay on task. As you're developing a dementia, it will become very evident that you can't finish anything. You go from thing to thing to thing and nothing gets done because you're just distracted from one thing to the next. And I can even notice that early on in these kind of quick screens. So what we're looking is connectors. Is it obvious how I got to those others? Yeah, I named snakes and that made me think of more. So what I'm showing you is, look what I have, wiring. Yes. Now, here's the exception. There's, at least in a group this large, I'm gonna have at least, I think, 5 of you who will have done the following. And you may be the listeners, not the talkers. So you may not have done it because you were listening to somebody, but here's your strategy. Antelope, baboon, cougar, dog, elephant, ferret, giraffe. You did the alphabet organizer. Raise your hand if that would have been your way or the way you do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I have more. There's 8 of you. Wow, cool. You're called super organizers. At this, I'm going to tell you a couple things about you, and you tell me if I'm lying or not. You have highlighters, and you're not afraid to use them. You are well organized. You like to have organizer things, and you use organizer things, and everything is organized. You like things to be in categories, and you like things organized about things. You struggle when things are disorganized. It makes you really unhappy. You like to have things well organized. Highlighters are friends because they color mark things that you know should be color marked so you can keep track of them. You like things. Here's the tendency if you develop a dementia. You tend to become a little OCD-ish. In other words, wait, no, I've got to, wait, this has to be, excuse me, I need to organize this. This needs to be organized. You spend a lot of time visually organizing things, and you don't like people to mess with your stuff because it has to be a certain way so your comfort level goes up. You don't like people, that's a really messy salad.
You think so?
Yeah, sometimes you don't even like your food touching.
Yeah.
I mean, you like your food separated, and you would never put it all on the same plate. That would really bother you. So when the dementia hits, take a deep breath, caregivers. Let it go, because they are going to be a rough ride, because they're going to be the ones who have to have it a certain way to be comfortable. And then other people are like, why does she have to be like that? Well, because that's pretty much who they were before they got dementia. Okay? So now that we have at least some sense of what's going on here, and we're sort of thinking something's cooking, that means we should dig in and get an evaluation of some sort to figure out what is. Is this under the umbrella or not under the umbrella? Is this just stress related, but we need to deal with stress, or is there something else going on? Because we still don't know, but we know you're showing, ooh, that's a change. Changes are not something you want to be looking for, unless they're up changes, in which case we're getting better, we're doing something good. And you can grow brain cells even when you get older.